name is Robert McDiarmid. I'm a partner in dispute resolution at Stronachs solicitors in Aberdeen.
Thank you very much. Can you tell me about your decision to attend the University of Aberdeen and what factors influence your choice?
Well, I joined Aberdeen for a couple of reasons. One was that Aberdeen is my home city. To some extent, it was convenient. I had a lot of friends and colleagues going there. But also because I was doing a law degree and Aberdeen has, for the longest time, and certainly when around about the time I was applying, had really good ratings for law. It was one of the best law schools in the UK. So it was a really good choice.
Thank you very much. Why did you decide to study law for yourself?
I think it was because it gave rise to options. So I wasn't sure at the age of 16, 17, whenever it was I was applying for courses at university. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And I think that's probably fairly common for somebody that age. And I read and was told that a law degree gives you options. So you can go into the solicitor's profession, or become an advocate, or use the degree to do other things. So I thought, well, why not keep the options open? And of course, the law degree is well thought of generally.
All right. Thank you so much for your answer, Mr. McDiarmid. So, of course, law is a very, I think, daunting profession, very challenging profession. I think the students subscribing to courses every single year, anyway, a shortage of applications across all around the world. But so, your experience? What did you find most challenging at Aberdeen? What did you enjoy the most about the university?
Well, the most challenging thing about university, I think, would have been probably the most difficult year of the studies, which was for the law degree, it was the second year, and I think that's still the case. So in second year is the year where you have the most number of subjects that you have to study all at the same time and do a whole bunch of exams all at the same time. So it's just quite intense, particularly after the first year where they try and ease you in a little bit. They hit you fairly hard in the second year, I think. So I would say that's probably the biggest challenge in that second year. The positive sides of the best things about my time at university, well, it's I guess probably the more social aspect, I suspect, spending time with friends. Either old friends from school who had come to university, or new friends made at university. It's the whole exercise. Getting a bit more freedom and taking a bit more ownership and responsibility and management of your time and all of that. And yeah, that's quite a rewarding time, I think.
Okay, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. You still hold the same kind of passion for law to this. Of course, you've been in this field for a very long time. Does it change? Do you feel that your goals and aspirations or your passions have to change? Do you have the same kind of association with the discipline?
Well, I think your attitudes, certainly my attitudes, have evolved for sure over the time. I think I've been now practicing law for 17 years or something like that. So that's quite a long time. And I would say, to the core, the things that I enjoyed about the practice of law, which are problem solving, using your skills and experience and knowledge to have a real world effect on things, hopefully positively. That aspect of it, which I enjoyed right at the start, I still enjoy now, which is great. It's taking a client from a situation over here and using those skills and expertise to move them to this position over here. So that's a rewarding thing to do, certainly for me anyway, and I'm still on that. I wouldn't say I have a more general kind of, I guess, more academic interest in the law. So I don't stay up at night reading about the latest law reform. for example, and getting really excited about what we may or may not do with the next bill. I think I'm much more a practical lawyer than that, I suspect.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your answer, McDiarmid. Now, of course, part of studying at the university involves being part of extracurricular activities as well. So, what about you? What clubs and societies were you part of, and how did they, in a way, supplement your growth as a professional and as an individual?
Well, I was part of the student law society, but that, there wasn't a huge amount to that. I mean, most law students were. I think the only other big club or extracurricular university activity that I had was football related. So I can't say that had a huge amount of impact on my career, but it was more athletic. Obviously, just about having fun and getting some exercise, and it was really good. So yeah, I enjoyed that.
Of course, of course. And of course, I think when as you mentioned that you played football, naturally there's an element of teamwork, an element of having a sense of kind of corroboration with your team members. Do you think that's helped you in your work as a law firm partner, somebody in this kind of position?
Well, to some extent, I think to the extent that any team sports require you to have certain interpersonal skills, and certainly to develop interpersonal skills that you need in any profession like law, which is absolutely a people profession. So whether you are a sole practitioner, or somebody that works in a bigger firm, either way, you are working with people, whether it be appearing before a court, whether dealing with other lawyers in your firm or in other firms, dealing with clients, of course. It's all a people game, so you need to be able to deal with people and work together.
Thank you. Did you participate in any part-time jobs or internships?
Yeah, so I did, well, in terms of legal-related internships, I did a summer placement with another Aberdeen firm, and that started off as, I think it was a two-week placement, I think it was, in what was their court department at the time. But it ended up getting extended to about 3 months, because they needed someone there, and happy for me to stay on and hang around and do bits and pieces. So that was good. I think I might have done that in the summer of my second year, perhaps, uni, second or third year, I'm sure. As regards other jobs, I had a range of part-time jobs over the years. Blockbuster being one that's not even around anymore. I worked in Blockbuster for a couple of years. Argos for a year, I think it was. TGI Fridays, feeding the dishes, and then working with fryers, all the highly skilled roles. But it was all good. Yeah, some of it was hard work actually, but again, it was social jobs as well as just earning some money to keep going through uni.
Of course. So, of course, when we come to university life, students, of course, as I have seen, students have had trouble looking for jobs, looking for internships. They don't fully know what kind of requirements there are for jobs around the market. So, what advice would you have for students who are looking for jobs or looking to be in work?
Well, I think I could probably only speak to the legal profession in terms of how people might find jobs there. As I've said to a number of prospective trainees, people that come to our own firm events or make applications when I've been involved in trainee interviews and the like, there is some element of luck to it, for sure. So there's not just a silver bullet that you can tick a box and that will get you in. It's a whole range of things. I mean, I think we received something like 200 applications a year for 4 or 5 traineeship slots. So it's highly competitive. So it's quite difficult to decide among dozens or hundreds of applications and try try and figure out who's worth getting in for interview. I would say at the very basic level, just make sure that there are no typos in your CV or in your application. Make sure you write well in what you're saying. So it's double check, triple check what you've done before you submit it, because the easiest way to actually exclude an application or CV is when you spot a bunch of typos, because if the applicant hasn't bothered to do that, then you might as well put them in the reject pile and focus on the 100 other people who have managed to do the second check or the third check. So I guess that would be the first thing. It's fairly obvious, but it's actually one that people should think about. And then after that, it's just have a think about the firm that you're actually applying to, and write in a way that demonstrates some eagerness to come to that particular firm. So do a bit of research in the firm. What is that firm's all about? What is that firm good at? What does it focus on? And explain and demonstrate why that is an area, or those areas that firm is good in, are the things that you want to focus on. So,
talk about your responsibility as a partner at Stronachs.
Yeah, so I'm the head of the dispute resolution team at the firm. We have, from memory, I think it's maybe 10 fee earners in our team. So that's 10 solicitors, trainees, and paralegals in the team, including 3 partners spread between our Aberdeen office and our Inverness office. So as head of the team, I'm responsible for making sure that we have regular meetings as a team. We understand what we're all doing, that the work is organized in such a way as to make sure that everyone's gainfully employed and properly utilized, that we are basically properly organized to do all the things that we need to do as a team. I also oversee certain of the solicitors who work with me particularly closely. So I will mentor them, and I will oversee their work, and make sure that they're developing as best they can in their profession, and their professional careers, and making sure that our clients get the best possible quality service. So that's one thing, and then I suppose more externally, it's my responsibility, along with the other partners in the firm, to go out and make sure to maintain relationships with clients, to do good work for the clients, be known to do good work for the clients, and make sure that there's a continual stream of business coming in from clients to keep everyone going.
Of course. Thank you so much. Naturally, I think dispute resolution has become a relatively more important field of law with the passage of time. I think students, since I'm a student myself, when I look around and look around my peers, most of them find dispute resolution a much more, in a way, viable field of law to venture into in the future. So, of course, since you've had so much experience in it, would you tell us a bit about the kind of cases you have dealt with, or the kind of cases, some memorable case that you had that you still remember?
So dispute resolution work, I guess, more broadly, is for me. I wouldn't do any other type of legal work. So for me, dispute resolution work is interesting because it has a contentious aspect to it. So you, for your client, are trying to achieve an objective. There are usually fairly smart people trying to make you fail at that objective. That's a really unique dynamic to have a career around. So people are trying to make you fail on a day-to-day basis. Now that means the work can be quite challenging, but for me it's fun because it's all about tactics, it's all about strategy, it's all about making sure you use your skills to create something out of nothing. Take your client's position, and that position might be a history, a cast of characters, a scenario, and utilize your skills to bring them from there to here. It might be conceiving of arguments like legal claims. It might be making either getting remedies from the courts or doing something that effectively gets them from A to B. No situation is the same. No two situations are the same. And it's really interesting. Whereas non-contentious work for me just wouldn't float my boat so much. So tends to be the non-contentious work. People actually agree on where they're going. And there might be some dispute over exactly the terms of a deal or something like that. Ultimately, everyone's actually working towards the same end. So you wouldn't, that would do something for me. So that's what I would say generally about dispute resolution work. It's not for everyone. Some people really love it. Some people would hate it. In terms of a specific case that I can think of to tell you about, I'm a little bit hamstrung as I can't obviously name names generally speaking, but most of my cases are commercial cases, so they will come across as fairly dry if I were to tell you all about them. But actually, once you're in the thick of it, you get really interesting technical issues, really interesting kind of scenarios that you get into. I mean, we had an interesting arbitration in the last couple of years, which was a London-based arbitration. And that was fun because it had some really novel legal issues in it. It was high value, so it was worth multi-millions of pounds. So it was worth enough for everyone to get into all the issues. There was no issue really with overspending on legal costs and the likes. It was just worth spending the time to really get into it all and really get through it, and that's fun. And client meetings were in London, Paris, and a couple other places because the clients fly in from all over the world to meet with us. And then we had the big hearing, a huge amount of time and work gone into it, and that was quite good fun. But I should have thought about it a bit more. I'm sure I could come up with a more juicy one for you, but there's quite a few.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So, of course, Mr. McDiarmid, you've had more than 10 years of experience as a partner. But if we kind of retrace back, how did you get your foot in the door for law or into legal practice per se?
So I think I got my traineeship. So I was going for a gap year after the diploma had finished, and I didn't have a traineeship lined up before that. And so you may or may not be aware that many firms recruit 2 years in advance for the traineeships, and as do we. So we have our trainees lined up 2 years before they're due to start. But I got to the end of the diploma and didn't have a traineeship lined up. So I was genuinely contemplating not going into law at that point. And I was due to go on a gap year, and I was going to be traveling to Singapore, I think it was, maybe in October or November time. But I had an interview with Stronachs, and I think the day before, maybe 2 days before I was due to fly, I received a call to say that I'd got the job. So that was great. So I was able to go away and contend that I actually had a traineeship to come back to. How I got the foot in the door? Well, I did an application form, I got an interview, I got a job. And there wasn't much more to it than that. I didn't have any family or anything like that, so there wasn't any of that. So.
Wonderful. And did you always practice dispute resolution, or did you engage in other parts of law prior to that, or was it some in a way field of law that you knew that's going to be in a way the end goal?
So I did. I mentioned the internship that I did during uni one summer, and that was in a court team. So that was dispute resolution. Although I did a bit of that time in the company registrar team of that firm. So I knew I was interested in the dispute side of things, but I didn't have any fixed views. I needed to try out a few different types of work and see what I liked. At Stronachs, we did have then, and we still have now, a rotational seat system, much like many other firms, where you spend 6 months in different seats. So I had 6 months in corporates, energy, commercial property, dispute resolution. Might be another one I'm forgetting. And dispute resolution is what I liked the best during the traineeship, and I was lucky enough to be offered a job as a newly qualified solicitor in that team. Although it was quite a difficult time because it was during the 2008, 2007, 2008, 2009 financial crash. So across the industry, people were being made redundant. So it wasn't the best time to be getting a newly qualified job. I was lucky enough that we had space here for that. So that's where I'm going.
Well, wonderful. Thank you so much for that, Mr. McDiarmid. So, as a law student, I was going to say we're constantly told to make sure that we're very aware of the changes in commercial law or any changes in the legal field, just to make sure that we're updated. So, of course, a very seasoned professional, how do you stay updated on the developments in the legal field?
Yeah, so we've got a multitude of online and in-person resources at the firm that are available to us to keep up to date with developments in the law. So online we have subscriptions to webinar series where you go in and there's just endless amounts of webinars on every topic you can think of. They're continually updated by firms across the country. So at any moment I could be watching a webinar and catch up on whatever's going on whatever area. We have various other online reading materials that are kept up to date as well. And we run internally training seminars, just updating on various areas as well, which are open to us to be involved in. And there are external sometimes webinars, also just external seminars in various areas as well. I went into partly for knowledge and development, but also partly for networking and business development. Lots of angles.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Mr. McDiarmid. So, of course, the law field or the legal field naturally has a lot of specific to law lingo or specific to law jargons we use that maybe a layman would not understand. Naturally, because your interaction is with, as you said yourself, that you're with the human interaction field. There's lots of human interaction in the legal field. So naturally, when you're giving advice to individuals who do not have a background in law or who do not understand those legal jargons, how do you communicate that? Have you ever felt that it's been a challenge communicating that, or has it always been a seamless process?
It's a skill you have to develop. I think you have to be a people person generally. But on top of that, there is a skill to develop because you need to be able to put yourself in the shoes of the person you're speaking to in order to be able to effectively communicate with them. So in a dispute resolution role, for example, so most of my work is commercial disputes. So inevitably I'll be acting for or dealing with individuals who are fairly experienced in the commercial world. So it might be business owners, certainly business managers, directors, that kind of thing, or other professionals. So you might speak to them or you might communicate with them in such a way that recognizes what they're interested in and their own pressures. So, for example, if you've got a busy owner-managed business with a managing director you're taking instructions from, the way you communicate with him or her is that you recognize that they don't have much time. They're probably time poor. So they need to know succinctly what is the information they need to make a decision and then move on. That's what they need. Now, in a different scenario, maybe you're dealing with a non-commercial person. Say there was some, I don't deal with many of these, but say there was a neighbour dispute or something like that, and you had a more elderly person who needs a lot more handholding. So you might spend a lot more time explaining the ins and outs of various of the issues, and you might make sure to get everything down on paper as well, so they have time to reread what you're saying and fully digest it. And so that will be a more effective way to communicate for that recipient of the communication than, say, the busy managing director. So it's very person specific.
Thank you very much. Can you explain what commercial litigation is and your experience in this kind of cases?
So commercial litigation, I would understand commercial litigation to be, well, breaking it down, litigation I would understand to be the process of going through court to reach a remedy. So that's what I would describe as litigation, although others might draw that more broadly. So I would describe the court processes as being litigation, and you can compare that to alternative dispute resolution methods like arbitration and mediation and a whole host of other ones, which I wouldn't describe as litigation. So that's the litigation side of things. The commercial side to it is, I would describe as basically a very broad range of subject matter that deals with commercial interests. And that could be anything from shareholders having disputes about the ownership of a company, for example, or one business having a dispute with another business in relation to a contract or some other issue. But the commercial litigation is extremely broad, and there are a whole bunch of sub areas within it that are quite specialist sometimes. I don't know if that helps.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that, Mr. McDiarmid. So, how do you approach settlement regulations in commercial litigation cases, and particularly, what factors do you consider when advising clients on settlement matters?
So, in terms of how to get to a settlement, I think the first question is always, is a settlement the best thing to serve the interests of the client first? So that's always a discussion with the client. Often it is the best thing because litigation or arbitration is usually a very costly exercise, and so it is usually the best thing to at least explore whether a settlement is possible with the other party. And there are certainly ways to do that, and still, of course, reserve your right to go ahead and litigate if the discussion doesn't work out. How you go about doing that depends on the situation. So it might just be the clients reaching out to the other party directly. It might be the solicitor, so it might be myself reaching out to the other solicitor engaged in the dispute. It may be that we propose something a little bit more formal than a discussion, like, for example, mediation, which would involve a third-party mediator coming in and helping the respective parties to try and reach some common ground. So there's we could do a whole discussion on any of those angles, but you need to be aware of all the ways to do that in order to achieve your client's best interests.
Of course, thank you so much. And moving on from that, do you have any advice for students who are struggling with the transition from academics to a professional field?
It kind of depends on the nature of the challenge that they're facing. So for some people, they move from uni to professional practice quite seamlessly, and they take to regular hours, 9 to 5 or whatever it may be, quite well, and they're kind of quite quick at picking that up. Others struggle more, and it might be because of a problem with the actual organization that they're in, potentially, or the boss, whoever they work for. It might be a problem there, or it might be that it's just a bit of a shock to the system for them. Maybe need to spend some time reflecting on how they how they are personally going to adapt to their new reality. But it can be a big difference because you've got to be quite disciplined. You've got to be into work on at a particular time, and work with full day, and it's just a different environment from the university. So how people deal with it depends on the nature of the problem or challenge that they're facing, I think. But I would say that the vast majority of people are perfectly capable of coming out of a law degree and going into practice.
Thank you very much. And the last question for today is, if you could go back in time, would you change anything about your time at University of Aberdeen, or would you give yourself any advice?
So would I change my time, anything about my time at university? I don't think so, to be honest. Yeah, did I give myself any particular advice? I think I'd probably, at the end of university, looking for traineeships, I'd probably tell myself to stress a little bit less about trying to find that traineeship, because ultimately it's going to come good and you're going to get a good traineeship and a good job and work for a good firm. So I'd probably like to go back and tell myself that at that particular point. But otherwise, I had a pretty good experience at the university. Aberdeen University is a good institution. The law school is a good law school. There are lots of good people there. I was lucky enough to be there along with lots of good friends, meet lots of good friends. Aberdeen is a good city to be a student in, and despite sometimes the weather.